I feel like it's an elephant in the room for a lot of people when it comes to emotions, is it's so common to think if I feel too much, I have some kind of disorder.
Yeah.
Or I'm not mentally available or
stable.
Right. Yeah, there's this space where it's like I can't feel things because if I do, then I'm looked at as I'm mentally unstable.
Right.
And so I think that's a huge subject that not a lot of people want to touch on.
Right.
But it's something we need to touch on.
Yeah.
Because it's so sensitive.
Yeah. I think that there's layers to this. And from what I've observed, and as I've worked with myself and other people, one is generationally women being, put in the mental hospital because they were too emotional. I remember reading a list of reasons why someone would go into a mental hospital, like in the 17 or 1800s. And one of those was emotional. Too emotional. And so we have some historical wounds to heal there and some historical things to look at within us. And I remember, even recently, as I've interacted with a few different men that are bringing up some of those old wounds for me, saying like, your emotions aren't okay. And I'm like, but they are. And then bringing up those things, I remember like observing and tuning into that and recognizing, ooh, those are like the layers of the generational and the things that I'm connected to, and working through those and healing those and giving love to those.
Yeah. And it reminds me, who was saying there was another spiritual leader, and I'll think of her name maybe later, but she was saying, things are centered in spirit, even if it's hard, if it brings the energy of hope, healing, and it's helpful. And so I think that can help you kind of discern too. It's like if you're having emotions that are so intense of hurting someone else or hurting yourself or taking out on someone else, that's not helpful, hopeful, or healing. And so in those kinds of particular spaces, it would be good to get some form of support through those intense rage energies. But if you're feeling intense sadness or jealousy or insecurities or feelings of not enough or resentment and anger towards God and these different things because of the suffering, because of the intensity of the experiences, I think it's helpful to fully feel into those spaces so you can retrieve the diamonds of wisdom from those experiences, because it's happening on some level. These are agreements, on soul agreements between us and others in this humanness and this human experience. And there's something there. And even if it's like what you went through and being able to give you that which you wish you could have gotten from other people, but what you learned from that isolation and loneliness and heartache was that you could count on yourself.
A man in my life, just a bonus, amazing partner.
Those are extra sprinkles.
My family. Yeah. Those are just extra sprinkles that are like amazing, but I've got me. I've got me. And to me, that is the point of this huge talk and evolution on self-love. Can I offer a practical tool?
Yes.
In this that I think is so valuable, especially for those of us that maybe haven't practiced this and aren't in tune with that emotional body, is scheduling time in your week. And like, I purposefully will set aside, especially if I'm going through a lot emotionally, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever I intuitively feel, but on certain days at certain times, and nothing gets to fill those spaces besides me and my emotions. And really addressing that, to me, that put me in a space of power, because again, remember at the beginning of my journey, I feared getting lost in the emotions, getting lost in the stories of it. And so setting aside that time frame, I say to myself, 20 minutes, and I'll make playlists, because music is really moving for me. Music helps move emotions really well for me. So I'll make playlists purposefully for releasing my anger emotions or releasing my sad emotions, and I'll go to those playlists and I'll play and I'll just tune into that and give myself that time. And then once it's done, it's done. And I'm moving forward with hope. I'm moving forward with goals with, okay, I did that one. It's kind of almost like I did 2 natural births, and there's pressure waves, it's like emotions are like pressure waves. And once you do it, it's like, I don't ever have to do that exact one again in that area. I might have similar feelings and similar ways of that expression or from a similar experience, but I never have to do that one again. That gave me so much empowerment to address my emotions, to set aside time to feel them, but also to give myself time frames so I'm not lost in it. So I don't stay in it all the time. And so that you come out and you're like, okay, now I'm going to get this done. I'm going to do this. I'm going to empower myself. This is the new action I'm going to be taking. And you move. And that helps, I think, put you in a space of power with your emotions to kind of address what the elephant in the room,
And almost even giving yourself space to feel it, and then closing that space with gratitude.
I love that.
You are a human here, so why not embrace it, but also be grateful for it.
I love that.
When you step back, this emotion isn't me. I'm not this emotion. I'm experiencing it, and I'm so grateful I'm experiencing it. Even if it's hard to feel.
Yeah.
It's
that
power.
gratitude of like, good job, self. Good job. You did so good feeling today. I'm so proud of you. It's like, that's what we wish we would have heard as children, So we wish we could have had, in offering yourself that. I love that. It's such a beautiful addition.
Sometimes even giving yourself space to write it out.
Yeah.
Even if you feel like you can't release the emotion, or maybe you're just so angry, it's like you can go outside. I remember I was, one of my friends, me and her were living together, and we both just had so much heavy energy, so much anger. So one day we literally had eggs, and we went to like this random meadow, and we're like throwing eggs at this tree. Yeah. And it made us feel so much better. Yeah. And then one day we had these rotten potatoes, so we went to that same field. I'm sorry, that field probably got a lot from us. But we had a baseball bat, and we hit the potatoes, and we gave ourselves permission to feel that. Yes. Or sometimes you need to write it out, write it and burn it, or talk about it. But I think it's so important that we have like a couple people or one person that can be our confidant versus spitting out the whole world. Right. Because that's not healthy either. Agreed. But it's like finding those boundaries for what's healthy. Yes. So you can give yourself full permission. Yeah. And not make yourself wrong for it.
Up to this point, most people feel so bad about feeling bad. And as we shift from that mind to the heart and we go into heart-centered living, not only is it important for us to embrace this emotional experience of what it means to be human without shaming, with curiosity and compassion, but for yourself, but also to create support systems where you can go and feel safe in your tribe, to be able to talk to other sisters, to be able to, and talk to other brothers, and to be able to be held in a space where there is no shaming for feeling. Yes. Because at this point, it's like the women, not only did we feel bad about what we felt, we felt bad for feeling bad, and we try to suppress those energies. But also too, there was so much cattiness as a result, where there was like, gosh, so-and-so has got, they've just lost, they don't have it, or there's attacking, or so I feel like this is a major shift, because I think this is why people are coming together in groups more and trying to cultivate these tribal, soulful, true connections. Yes. And what are your thoughts about that? And what have you noticed?
I have some really good thoughts here. And again, kind of practical tools that have really helped me and helped other clients. And I don't have all the answers, and there's a lot of trial and error that can happen in this, but some things that I think are really important. One, before you act and start speaking in a space, think about why, especially when it's a highly triggered space. Maybe a friend of yours is coming, having a hard conversation about something you did that hurt her feelings, and that can be a hard conversation. That can be heightened emotions, and you can easily want to go on the attack and the defense. And before you do that, observing, taking a moment. It's like, when my children, I'm experiencing overwhelm, I'm like, I need a minute. Taking a minute and getting lovingly curious. Why am I feeling this way? Oh, I feel like I'm bad and I did something wrong. And then I'll go into, well, what was my intention with my sister when I showed up that way? Oh, I wasn't really thinking about how it would affect her. And so then I know that's my part. And I'll ask myself in every situation, what's my part? I'm not taking on the whole thing, because we have this spectrum of accountability.
Yes.
We have the blamer. We do this all in different areas of our life, but we have the blamer that's like, it's all your fault. And they don't want to take any accountability. And then there's the over accountable, which is just as harmful, of it's all my fault and I have to fix everything. And I'm so sorry. And I did everything wrong. And I was more there. And so now coming into balance in any situation now that's triggering, and somebody's coming to me and wanting to have this connection and wanting to say, you hurt my feelings. I go into that space of what's my part and taking accountability for that. And then asking myself, what was my intention when I acted that way? Did I purposely hurt them because I was hurt, or did I unintentionally? And then I apologize for that. And one of the other things, so think before you act and before you speak, really go into that observation mode. One of the other things that's become so valuable that I've observed is this ability, when someone comes to me and they're sharing with me their triggers, their vulnerabilities, their insecurities, their hurts, even if they're angry, that is a hard space to be sharing with another human being. That's pure courage. And if I meet it with my stories, it's going to be explosive. If I meet that with my stories, it will be explosive and it will cause more harm.
Yeah.
And this happened actually when I was going through my divorce. My 12-year-old came to me, and this was such a beautiful moment in action. And he said, Mom, I need to talk to you. And so we sat in my little office, and he said, I'm so mad at you. And in that moment, I had two options that I saw. One, I could show up defensive and defend myself and tell him all the reasons why I was justified in divorcing, and he was angry about the divorce, and then that I chose that. And I could show up that way and then wrong him for feeling what he felt. And that's what happens in those moments when we become defensive. We wrong the other person in feeling that way, and it creates disconnect. And so in that moment, I was lucky enough to be so aware to say, oh, this is a moment. All my stories go on the shelf, and I am here for him and his emotions to validate and to hear his full story. And so I was able to, as a mother, sit there in that sacred space to hear his anger towards me, about the situation, and say, I hear you. I know that would be so hard. And just be there for him. Oh, it was so beautiful. At the end, he was like, okay, that was it. It's like, okay. And then for me, we went on, and I kept going, like things were good. And then this shelf, there were so many emotions that came up from it about me as a mom, and about who I was. So, within an hour, I went for a drive and just like sobbed it out and cried it out and honored those parts of me that was hard to hear. That was so hard to hear. And so to me, that's like the most healthy thing we can do, especially in our closest relationships, is if we can learn and become aware of how to shelf things and be there for someone's stories and emotions, and take accountability for our part and show up in love. And then ask for that in adult situations. I think we also deserve to say, hey, can I have a turn now to share my stories of what that brought up in me and my own fears? And that practice of showing up for each other that way as women, as partners, to me, that is incredible in creating real connection and intimacy when you can do that. And it's easy to say, but it's no small feat.
In a nutshell, shelf your story. Listen.
Yep.
Hold space.
Yep.
And then allow that person to be fully present with that person, so they can truly process what they're experiencing without shaming them, just
Mhm.
holding compassionate energy, even if it
Mhm.
appears that it's coming at you.
Yes.
Being able to hold that space with
Mhm.
courage, because it's tremendous courage for them to do it.
Yeah.
But I must say, it's tremendous courage for you to do that as well.
Yes, it is.
And to be able to not blame or not
Right.
project your stories onto the
Yes.
other individual for their experience,
Yeah.
to honor that individual for their experience and
Yeah.
allow that energy to fully move through them
Yeah.
without shaming them.
Yeah.
That's
And
amazing.
not to choose into their story is true about you,
Mm-hmm.
to observe it. Like there's so much power in that, saying, this is their story. I'm not accountable for what they're saying. I'll observe it. I'll check in to see if there's some things for me to look at on my end, but to not take their story personally or our stories personally.
Yes.
Because it's interesting how it can stop the emotion. It can stop the connection and the full experience when we bring our stories to the table and it's explosive.
Mhm.
This is how those fights end up just crazy.
Oh,
you
yes.
know?
And we project our personal experience onto someone else, that then all of a sudden it's not about them anymore. Now it's about you.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So, that I think is so important. Like with, gosh, I love how you're doing this, because it's like an onion layer process.
It is.
You're loving yourself in the way that you need to be loved. So you can
Yeah.
count on you.
Yeah.
And then when you come into relationship with another, then what you can do to hold space for an individual processing deep emotion is to shelf your stories, to fully listen and be present. And then as you move into a group experience, it's really the same process, because if someone in the group is sharing these intense emotions, again, shelf your story. Don't project your experience onto someone else, and fully listen, fully allow them to process and to feel. And then you can take a moment. If it has something to do with you, if you're a part of their story, then you can internalize this experience, truly listen to every detail and say, I think too, another one too is mirroring and saying, and making sure that you're hearing them correctly and saying, okay, so let me make sure that I hear you correctly. And to repeat back to them and have them keep talking about it until they feel that you understand and you truly hear them. And then be able to process that and say, okay, is there something within this experience where I can take accountability of something that I said or something that I did? I could have approached that in a more loving, respectful way, and then share that with them.
Yeah.
Am I hearing anything correctly?
Yeah. I absolutely think that that's powerful. And, offering the power of offering yourself love and invalidating your own emotions is you practice it here and then you can do it out here.
Work from the inside out.
You practice it first with you and then you'll become better for other people.
Yes.
That's why I could do that for my son, because I'd been practicing in my own emotions through the experience and I could do that. So there's power in that. Also recognizing in so many ways, like a lot of us can go into guilt and shame and I was a bad person that I did that and caused you pain. And remembering, and I say this all the time to my kids, I'm still learning how to be a mom, or I'm still learning how to be human. And it's not an excuse, but it's a truth. Like there are situations that I'm in now. Like I went back into the dating world. There's situations that I'm in now that I'm like, I've never experienced this before. I don't actually know how to do this. And so it's going to be messy. It's going to be like learning to walk. You fall down and then you're like, okay, get back up, and you try again and you keep falling and you get back up and you learn. But from every situation, at the end, I think where I felt you going is when you mirror back to somebody, then you can find solutions of like, how would you like to next time? How would you like me to show up? And then really consciously make that effort and work on that in that relationship, or if what they ask for doesn't work for you, it's not something like I've had people come to me and say, I want you to spend this amount of time with me every week for this long. And I'm like, that doesn't work for me right now.
And that's something that keeps popping up in my mind is it's so easy going back from the inside out. It's so easy to go the outside to go in, to rely on light workers or energy workers or healers. And of course, everyone has their space and their place to help with that. But ultimately, it all comes back, it has to start within. And you can have someone help be a catalyst to bring that within.
Yeah.
But if you're going to someone for guidance, you're going to someone to receive answers for you, and you're not taking the time for yourself, that's also something that's so powerful.
100%. I agree.
Is you can go to other people, they can come to you, but are you both working together to connect back within?
Yeah.
Because that's where that heart-centered living, that's what we're learning in the Aquarian age,
Right.
is that heart-centered space to feel it. And sometimes you do need someone to help be a catalyst to bring in information.
Right.
But how often are we relying on someone else
I agree.
for that? And maybe that's because we're trying to escape from actually feeling our emotions.
Yeah.
So we look outward
Yeah.
instead of actually going within to do the thing that we know we need to do.
Right.
We just are resisting it.
Well, isn't it interesting too? Because there's this collective idea that up to this point of our expansion, that it's irrational to feel, it's irrational to get too consumed in those energies in your life, or to really be with those energies in your life. At the same time, here we are in the Aquarian age, and one of the strengths of the Aquarian energy is autonomy and accountability. And this is the ultimate accountability, to be there for yourself first. You can't wait for everyone else to say or to do the right thing. You have to take a stand. You have to live by your truth. You have to do your work. And then you go out and you serve others, and you're there for other people. So, you know, that starting in that spiral, starting from the heart space and moving out, is the accountable, logical thing to do.
Yes.
And so, and we are to be emotional.
Yes. Emotionally.
It's the emotional, accountable thing to do.
Yes.
Absolutely.